All right, so we're back with another episode of Full of Culture, and we have a special guest with us today. We have Mr. Israel Bass.
Israel, yeah, what's happening, man? How you doing? Thanks for having me. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, man.
Really appreciate you. You do a lot of things.
Well, I've tried to keep busy, and I think I've done a decent job of at least keeping busy.
That's always the key thing to do, because people, they wondering like, oh man, does he have a life at all?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
People wonder that with me. They're like, do you have a life? Why are you always so busy?
Right,
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to keep it moving.
You ain't doing nothing. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Indeed, you got to keep it moving, and you know what? It beats the alternative.
Yeah,
That's right.
Definitely does. So where are you from initially?
I am a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in the Bronx.
In Bronx Borough.
Yes, indeed. That's right.
What part of it?
I am from originally. I'm originally from the Fordham Road side of the Bronx, and then my parents moved over to the Sound View part when I was about, I don't know, I might have been like maybe 6 or 7, which is really the birthplace of hip hop.
Really?
Bronx River Projects, indeed.
That's so. With that must be why. Like, did you always have a love for hip hop growing up?
Yeah. The interesting thing about hip hop is that I never really remember like getting into hip hop, because it was almost like hip hop was always around me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I got into it. It was just like a natural progression to be a part of it. And considering, you know, that I grew up in an area where the forefathers of hip hop, people like Bambaataa and Zulu Nation, literally like across the street.
Yes.
You know, that is, you know, that's where I'm from. So that's basically what I grew up around. It was always around me, and it also gave me a different perspective. Also, I'm older than most folks that consider themselves hip-hop fans, but gave me a different perspective about really what hip-hop is.
That's dope.
So my question is, you know, with hip-hop and things like that, what brought you down to Full Sail? That's a total
Full Sail. Oh, okay. Like,
New York.
Yeah, well, I think we have to start way before I started teaching. I moved to Orlando a long time ago, in the end of '89. So I was leaving my teenage years, and I left New York, and then came here. And when I got here, you know, being in New York during the golden era of hip hop, and, you know, being involved in hip hop from, you know, early age. I had been making music since I was a kid, since I was a teenager. Got my first record deal when I was a teenager. And then when I came to Orlando, I didn't really find hip hop here. Didn't, you know, really see anything that I grew up with, or at least anything I could relate to. And I started one of the first hip hop radio shows. So I started doing radio out at 91.5 WPRK. I had a Saturday night slot, and believe it or not, DJ Khaled had the Friday night slot.
Friday night slot back then.
Indeed. So, you know, they were, you know, playing a lot of hip hop, but it was more on the mainstream side. And then when I came in, I started bringing all the stuff that was just about to bubble up everywhere else. So things like the Wu-Tang Clan, things like Tribe, and all that kind of stuff.
Was that in the 90s? WPRK in the 90s?
Early 90s, 20 plus years ago. Indeed,
That's dope.
Indeed. So, and I have to give a shout out, as a matter of fact, since we're doing media, to, you know, one of my best friends, and also I would say he's a pioneer in hip hop on the media side. His name is Kevin Keith. Kevin Keith started a radio show in New York. We were childhood friends. So he's from Harlem, I'm from the Bronx. He started a show at 105.9, which is, you know, kind of like the home for underground hip hop in New York. Now that's saying a lot for a moment. Like, if you talk about underground hip hop in New York.
Right.
Oh, it's
Like
nice.
that's going even deeper, you know. So those groups that today in many ways are icons, those are the people that used to go to his show. So we were best friends, and when I moved to Orlando at the end of '89, you know, I was kind of, to be honest with you, I was kind of, you know, like a fish out of water.
Right.
But he kept me afloat. Like he was literally getting albums not actually before the actual record labels got them. So artists would come out the studio and they would hit him with whatever they were coming out the studio with. He would later get calls from the labels that, you know, were angry, like, why are you playing this? This isn't coming out for a year.
Oh man.
And then the beautiful thing about it is that he shared the love. So here I am in Orlando, little tiny radio show, and from day one, he would ship me packages every single week of the hottest things that wouldn't blow up in some cases for years. So here we were in Orlando, and you were getting like stuff straight out of, in some cases, the studios of New York City. And that essentially is how I was already into hip hop. I was already recording hip hop, but that's how I got into media in Orlando. And then for, you know, the better part of a decade, hosted a show. Khaled left maybe about a year or so after I started. The rest is history with him. He moved down. I think he was doing stuff with Terror Squad, and then he went down south to Miami or vice versa.
Right.
Yeah.
And he obviously, you know, did amazing things. And I kind of, you know, just kept hip hop going here in Orlando for the better part of a decade.
That's dope.
So, you know, going back to your question, that was, you know, almost 20 years in the future. I had, you know, pretty much been a staple of hip hop in Orlando, you know, pretty much from the beginning of hip hop really even getting any kind of identification here. Now, don't get me wrong, bass was killing it, you know, so
Bass,
people like
what?
Magic Mike, you know, were selling platinum records out of Orlando in the late 80s, early 90s.
What was that genre of music? Is that like what they would call jam pony or something?
That was, yeah, so that was more like, you know, there's a lot of names for it, so bass music,
Oh,
you know, it
was
was
it like
club
Uncle
music,
Luke?
booty shaking, right.
Uncle Luke type
Indeed,
bass.
indeed. So it wasn't Uncle Luke bass. So basically it was a deeper bass. So Uncle Luke was straight party.
Right.
You know, Two Live Crew was straight party, and they had party music, but it was almost like really car music. Like it was meant to be played in those cars with the serious subwoofers.
Okay.
And that's what was happening here in Orlando when I got here. Which nothing wrong with that. They were killing it, but to me that wasn't hip hop. You know, that just wasn't what would resonate with me, coming from a place
It's a life difference.
where people like Rakim and Big Daddy Kane and Ultramatic MCs and Public
You
Enemy.
gotta think about in the South, you know, a lot of dudes in the South will put $10,000-$15,000 in their car.
Indeed,
Like,
indeed,
like,
indeed.
so with everything,
They were
still
doing the
do
same
it.
type of bass in Oakland.
Yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
You see that
Indeed.
in Oakland, you'll see it in Memphis, in Atlanta,
Indeed.
Miami,
Texas,
Indeed.
all the stuff. I guess the California,
Indeed,
all of that.
indeed.
So it was like a culture shock for you.
Yeah, it was a culture shock because to me that was rap. Hip hop was something different, and we could probably sit and debate all day about that and not taking anything. They were killing it.
Right.
But it wasn't what I grew up as understanding hip hop was. And that's what, you know, I helped bring to the table. I'm not going to say I was the sole one because, you know, Khaled and the other crew were doing their thing on Friday nights. But you know, definitely brought that sound that hadn't really been here before and continued to do it for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So now you're in New York, came down here, get into media, kind of get into the Full Sail scene.
You can't even go there yet.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of things.
Yeah, we can't go there. We got to go back decades. So what happened was I was hosting this radio show. And at the time, I wasn't really feeling how hip hop, if this is, you know, for the culture, let's talk about for the culture. So I wasn't really feeling how hip hop had been misrepresented in media. So my perspective of hip hop, like I mentioned, was a different perspective because of the fact that I kind of came up around the people that created it.
Right.
And my understanding of hip hop was essentially that it was this thing that was created by kids of the inner city to save their souls, to save themselves from urban blight, from the destruction that was around them, to do something positive, to do something that was creative, to do something that was empowering, to do something that would give them a voice.
Because that's what saved your life.
Indeed, indeed. So, you know, after a while, a lot of the what I would say commercialized criminal elements, not to say that crime isn't always existing in the streets, but it started to be exploited by the record labels to sell hip hop.
Right.
My understanding, coming from its origins, is that that's not what it was. It was the opposite of that. So I started to, you know, try to figure out ways to have a voice in that space. I started to write for different magazines, got published, and then eventually started to write for the country's oldest urban music industry publication, which is known as Jack the Rapper. Jack the Rapper used to do these big industry events back in the day. They have been around 40 years. By the way, it's not called Jack the Rapper because it's rap music. It was called Jack the Rapper because Jack Gibson, who is the founder of that company and that magazine and that industry event, that was his moniker. That was his on-air, you know, name back when he started doing. He was a pioneer in radio back, you know, decades before.
Okay.
So he called this, you know, publication and this movement Jack the Rapper, and then I started to write for them. I started to do a lot of the hip hop for them, and then eventually that morphed into starting the first hip hop industry magazine, and that's Insomniac Magazine, and that was over 20 years ago. And then I did that on paper version, like a regular magazine, for about a decade. However, we launched online back in like 97, 98.
Ahead of y'all time.
Yeah, so when you ask me, you know, my path to being a teacher is what you're asking me, in many ways started, you know, 20 plus years ago when I started on the radio and I started talking about, you know, my experiences coming up in the music industry, you know, being signed to record labels, learning about the business, learning about media, then also sharing that information in print, sharing that information online, finding opportunities to speak whenever I could in places like the YMCA, places like juvenile detention centers, and then eventually that led me to becoming a teacher in college, and I've been doing that now for over 13 years.
So it's crazy that you come down to the South and you're able to feel the best of, like, well, I would say both worlds in the hip hop.
Yeah, well, I would say that, you know, there definitely wasn't a hip hop scene here. And, you know, I kind of left out, and even that was sparse. I mean, you know, you had people like, you know, Luke, and I said Magic Mike and the Clay D, and there were some others that were doing their thing, but I mean, this wasn't a hotbed for entertainment. This wasn't a mecca for hip hop. I mean, people liked
pop and
people like dancing, you know, people like dancing music,
house music,
and that was before. I mean, techno also, electronic music had its, you know, kind of its peak in the mid to latter 90s, but even before that, you know, bass was killing it in the clubs down here. It just wasn't necessarily what was appealing to me. I was more about, you know, finding that lyrical, you said conscious, and it doesn't have to be, not that I'm a Puritan, it just has to be authentic. It has to, you know, it has to be real.
I mean, conscious music is just awareness music.
Yeah.
So it's whatever your reality is.
Right, they call it woke now.
But being weird, I hate. Well,
well,
I want to ask you too, shifting into that, I saw you on the Network Music Conference. As an artist myself, I've been seeing this everywhere, and I have no idea what it's about.
Yeah, so the Network Music Conference, they just wrapped up, I believe it's number 7, and it was started by a gentleman by the name of DJ Slim, who actually has his own background in the music business and actually had success in that space too, and is still out there DJing, and he created, I'm not a representative for Network Music Conference, but I know about it, and he created, you know, this opportunity for folks to learn about the music business, you know, and being an educator, you know, I thought that it was important to be able to help in any way that I could. So, you know, he would ask me to come and, you know, host or moderate panels about the music industry and media, and I've been doing that now for about, I think this is the 3rd year that I've done that with him. Yeah, so I mean, you know, it's a positive thing, and it's a thing that provides an opportunity for people that might not otherwise know or have an opportunity to learn from industry professionals, you know, to do that. And that, you know, I commend them for that. Okay. And in many ways, it's kind of like, you know, it's like going to school for 2 days. You know, you get to really get schooled on the industry, and, you know, we had plenty of pretty, you know, awesome folks with all kinds of credentials speak at that event. So it's been pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a hip hop connoisseur, how do you feel the state of hip hop has evolved? Like, how do you? I know nobody's seen it coming or going the way it's going with streaming, but how do you feel? Well, how do you like it? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to unpack in that question. So first and foremost, you know, I think that like anything else, there's good and there's bad. So the good thing about where we are right now, I think, is that, you know, you were talking about media when I think before you started the camera, you were talking about media, and I think that's a beautiful thing about where we are right now, is that essentially, you know, as someone that has been involved with media for a really long time, you know, anyone could play. You know, once upon a time, there was an immense barrier to entry. You had to have deep pockets to even get a shot at having a voice. Today, if you have a connection to the internet and you have, you know, you don't even need to have a lot of savvy. You don't even have to have a platform other than maybe, you know, social media, and you can have a voice. And if you know, if you have a message, if you create a movement, you know, you can do amazing things. And that's the beautiful thing about where we are right now. I think that's beautiful for all creators. That is not specific to hip hop. But when it comes to hip hop, I think that hip hop has a lot of healing to do. I think that hip hop, once upon a time, was very balanced. I think that, you know, back in the early days of hip hop, the golden era of hip hop, you know, I think that we had a little bit of everything happening. So you have people like, you have people like, you know, Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel, the Furious Five, with the message. Think about that for a moment. Go online right now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go on YouTube, search, people out there, search the message, Grandmaster Flash. That was made 30-ish years ago. That record resonates today. Think about that for a moment. That was, not only were they trailblazers, not only did they create something that did not exist in that medium previously. I'm not talking about just Grandmaster Flash. I'm talking about those people. But they created something that in 2018 is still impactful. That's a powerful thing. I wonder if that's the case for a lot of the music that we hear today. And it's not specific to Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five. You move a little bit forward, look at people like Run DMC. Run DMC brought it globally, and Run DMC had a very distinctive voice that would never be confused with someone like a Big Daddy Kane, who would never be confused with someone like a Rakim, who could never be confused with someone like my man Chuck D from Public Enemy, that could never be confused with the Beastie Boys, that could never be misread as something coming from EPMD, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Today, ironically, starting in an environment where there was so much depth, so much impact in what they were putting out there, and variety, it's ironic that you think about things evolving 30 years later, we should be in some crazy spaceship, like, you know, different galaxy type stuff.
I feel like we already are in that.
Instead, to think about this for a moment, instead, if you think about all the people that are hot, I named you all the people that were hot back then. All the people that are hot now, they're all kind of in the same space.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exceptions. but for the most part, they're kind of in the same space.
I think now, when I look at the hip hop industry now, slowly but surely it is balancing. But I think that's the problem, because I'm the type of person, like, I looked at old hip hop before I even got into hip hop. I was always into soul, neo soul music, and when you look at the trail of jazz, blues, neo soul, the same thing that happens to hip hop is already happened to those musics.
Yeah, indeed.
So when you look at hip hop, you know, I tell people, like, how can you say you like a dope hip hop artist? Like, for me as a female and I rap, how can I say I'm dope, but then I don't know who Queen Latifah is? I don't know who some of the first girl groups, the Great Barriers.
Indeed, that's a great point, and I'm glad to hear that. As a young person, I really compel all of the artists out there, all of the hip hop creators out there, to stop for a minute and think about the fact that there is an immense history before you ever picked up that microphone, before you ever touched Fruity Loops. There is an immense history. And if you dig into that history, I bet that you're going to be compelled to help it grow, to take it further. If you talk to a kid that is, you know, just learning or maybe just starting to play heavy metal music, you best believe that they know who Jimi Hendrix is. And Jimi Hendrix was a metal. He was the forefather of metal. Right.
Catapulted all those guitar players.
Indeed.
You know.
If you talk to someone that's playing the blues, I guarantee you they could go back to Robert Johnson, 1940 something, and this guy playing his, even before Chuck Berry, playing his guitar, cigar box guitar.
I mean, if you ain't learning about Muddy Waters, you ain't learning about all those people, you ain't not learning. See, this is the thing. As an artist, I don't care what genre you're doing. If you don't know about your Eartha Kits, if you don't know about all these historical people, like a lot of people don't even understand, like, what people like Dorothy Dandridge. She right there in that studio in there. They don't understand what these artists did, or like Josephine Baker. They don't understand what they did to open up these doors.
I disagree as an artist with that standpoint, because I mean, it's not like we reinventing it, you know. To know an Eartha Kitt or to know somebody in that genre, if you're doing the blues, maybe, but how does it and today and dubstep and hip hop and everything that corresponds with hip hop and is in the entirety of hip hop, I don't think that they go that far back.
I think
they go back to the 80s, 90s.
I mean, when you look at hip hop, how did hip hop start? See, that's the thing.
It started from that. It started from that. But
so if you don't understand its history,
but they go and do the history on it. They go and do the history on it, and then it make them very conscious. I feel like. I feel like do whatever you do.
It's
if
like
your shoestrings go that way, be that. It's beautiful. Be that.
I mean, yes, but
you don't have to do.
Two sides
but you should
stories.
know. But then when they interview you and like who's Biggie and who's Tupac, you should know that. You know, or you know. But if they say who is Jimi Hendrix, I'm not even going to doubt that. If they say who's Otis Redding and Marvin Gaye, you know, you shouldn't be hitting the head because you don't know that.
Yet Drake just put out a whole song, Marvin's Room. People was like, what?
And that was for Drake, you know, but there was so many guys back there that they can refer to.
A lot of these songs, I hate listening to some of these new age artists because I listen to old music. Yeah. So I listen to these songs and I'm like, yo, this is so hard. And I'm like, they didn't even do nothing.
No, I think I agree.
They put their own style to it, but they didn't pay homage
to
the originator of that.
I agree with both of you, but I will say this. So there is a difference. So let's go back a little bit to one of the first things that I mentioned, you know, about when I came here, and I said that, you know, I acknowledge and respect the creativity and the craft that went into making bass music. Right. It wasn't for me, but I acknowledge it. I also, as a side note, you want to talk about entrepreneurs, they were killing it on the entrepreneurial space because they were putting out their own records, which is a totally different story.
Do you remember a bass artist from that
era? Time? Yeah, I told you.
Shout out to bass artists from that era.
Clay D. Magic Mike, indeed.
Magic Mike, you did say
no question about that. Magic Mike, he's still in town, dude. So platinum records. But
shout out Magic Mike.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, there's nothing wrong with not knowing your history. The problem is this: hip hop is not just music. Hip hop is a culture. I will defer to KRS-One
Okay.
When he said hip hop is something you do, essentially it's something you live, hip hop is something you live, rap is something you do. You rap, but you live hip hop. Hip hop was birthed by kids that created this thing, as we just stated, to save themselves. That's a powerful thing. Kids that had nothing, they didn't have parental guidance, they didn't have any sort of resources, they didn't have horns and guitars. All they had was their parents' dirty, old, dusty records.
Yeah, I had tapes, cassette tapes.
And this was before that.
Tapes and spray paint.
And they created, think about this, and they created this billion-dollar industry birthed at the hands of kids that had nothing. That's powerful. That's why it's important to know your history.
That's very powerful. I want to know, for the culture, we got one more question for you. Who are you listening to today?
Today, wow. So this is the thing. I told you that when I came here at the end of '89 from New York, you know, I kind of came with that sound that was, you know, grassroots. That's what that was. That was grassroots. Right. That was original hip hop.
Right.
So when I came here, you know, I really brought something with me, and I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I brought something with me. I was certainly a player, you know, that helped bring it. Something with me that represented, you know, the initial sound and essence of hip hop. That sound and essence, ironically, has become underground now, which is kind of ironic, but that's a different story. So if you ask me who I'm listening to now, this is by no stretch of any imagination to not give respect to people like Kendrick or, you know, whoever is, you know, doing music that is, you know, positive, but I still have to go deeper. I still have to go below that, because there's so many folks out there that are hustling hard, that are making powerful music and are true to the essence of hip hop. They're making that boom bap sound, and there are a ton of them. I will say this: if you want to learn about who these artists are, I can shout out a bunch of names now. You know, shout out, by the way, to all the Winners crew, Husk Kingpin. We just did something the other day on Mr. Rosati, Extreme. I mean, there's crazy amounts of people out there. Daniel's son. But take a look at Insomniac Magazine. Still, after 20-something years, we still publish a top 10 every single week without fail. And what you see on there are those people that are still true to that sound, even after all these years. They may not be the most famous, but I tell you what, that's something that we've always been good about, is kind of identifying those stars before they become stars. So take a look at it. Look at some of those artists, and I guarantee you, you probably haven't heard of a lot of them, but you're going to be impressed by what you hear. As a side note, this is a tradition, because we have people on the magazine like The Roots, like members of the Wu-Tang Clan, you know, like Common, you know, in many instances before they were megastars. So that's Lil Wayne. So that's something that we continue to do 20-something years later. Insomniac Magazine. You know what, though? If you forget all that,
I got it right here.
If you forget all that, because I know not everyone's taking notes, in hiphop.com.
And hiphop.com.
In hiphop.com. That's it.
And this is the Israel Vaz interview, y'all. For the culture. We out.
All right, we live here. We live here for the culture. We lit.
We got Dreci with us, y'all.
Yes.
What's up?
So how are you doing?
Yeah, you did.
I did say it right.
Yeah, you did. I'm good. I'm chilling. You know, a little hungry, a little cold, but you know, I'm maintaining.
It's Florida.
I love the outfit, the flowers, and the velvet. It's the season.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you
velvet
feel me?
Velvet is in style.
It be popping.
You know.
If you don't got velvet, you bum. It's like, I'll just play.
No.
I'll just play. For the culture, no, you don't have to have velvet. It's like, but anyway, we want to know, as far as the artistry, we seen you on 104.5 The Beat. That's pretty lit, man.
Yeah,
that's how we find. We said we have to interview this girl. Who is she?
Yeah, I'm Dreci, little Dree from South Apopka.
Okay.
South Apopka.
Heck yeah, that's
okay. So Also, not only did we see you on the radio, but you just did a show. She Gotta Have It show.
I did.
How was that?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I had so much fun. It made me realize how much I actually like performing, like being in front of people. I was so hyped.
That's the best thing, right?
Yeah, I was like, man, people had came out afterwards. Like me and my homegirl, we were in the car. And it was like, she rapped, and I swear it was like a group of people around the car. I was just spitting for them. I was like, what's up, y'all? Y'all want more? Like, I was lit.
You always got to keep that in the chamber. I call that ammunition in the chamber.
Yeah, I was ready,
always got to do that because you never know who's listening, who's walking up to catch those 60 bars you got for
Yeah, you know, I did drop a few jewels on
because the show, I was looking at the show, and I was like, she gotta have it. What is that? I'm looking at the show right now.
Whose show is that?
Spike Lee, man. That's a classic.
She's Gotta Have It.
Yes.
I know the movie. Spike Lee got a TV show.
Well, they have a show on Netflix now.
Right. You on Netflix, shawty? What are you?
I don't watch TV.
It's a show that they have created a series. She Gotta Have It.
Right.
Off of the movies.
What does that have to do with?
So I was looking at the series, and I was like on Facebook, and I follow Brittany, and she was
Brittany. Who's that?
Brittany Elise.
Oh, so she has her own. She Has to Have It series?
No, it was a show.
That was the show.
That was the name of the showcase.
Yeah.
She's Gotta Have It. That's dope. That's
I
dope.
was
That's
going
dope.
on
That's
Facebook
dope.
and I saw.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering. Like, what is okay?
And I was like, okay, I was supposed to make it, but you know, I be working. But I was like, that is. I thought the name of the show at the time that it was released and things like that, I heard that it was a good response. I didn't get to go, but I keep on the scenes, and I love to see the female scene just buzzing.
Dope. Yeah,
I need that in hip hop.
It was lit.
What inspired you to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this? Like,
to just start going full force. I was like, honestly, I heard Lil Yachty song.
Which one?
Okay,
it was. I know you
for life.
That one.
In the Bust Down studio.
That
he did that in his mama kitchen.
I don't know where he did it, but I heard that song and I was like, man, if he can do it, like I can too. Yeah, like I'm lit. Like I ain't throwing no shade to him or no disrespect, but you know what I'm saying? It was just
when I heard that song, I was like, why ain't I on yet?
Yeah, exactly. It was like anybody can do it. He just being himself. That's what happened. He just blew up from being himself.
Being himself.
Okay.
That's it.
And like, what, 2018, so we almost at the end of the year.
I know.
So how has this year been as an artist, as a black female artist right now in the industry? 'Cause that's a big deal.
Yeah, how has this year been for you?
It had its ups and downs. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. It's been, you know, some days it's been like, dang, should I just stop this? This ain't worth it. Then other days it's been like, okay, Dreci, keep going. You know, it's reasons. It's reasons.
That's the
like
life
people,
of artistry.
Yeah, like, and when I did the She Gotta Have It, that was when it made me realize I was like, okay, like people really like me, so that pushed me. I just came from the studio. I think I had a studio session Sunday. I dropped 8 songs. Ready for
you work
my
like that?
And
all in the same session.
It pushed me. It motivated me. Do better.
She's a hustler.
Gotta be. I'm hungry.
Which venture did you do first? Was it the She Gotta Have It or the 104.5 The Beat?
No, it was a 104.5. Brittany had.
She got you on the radio.
Yeah, she got me on the radio.
How'd you meet her?
Instagram. Desiree. Yeah, Desiree. She's the one that heard my song, and then. Word of mouth. Word of mouth. Yeah, so shout out to Desiree.
Shout out Desiree,
Desiree, you made it happen for me.
She really making people careers.
Yeah, they've been helping me from the beginning.
Exactly what song was this that she
Valley Chicks.
Valley Chicks.
That was my first song ever.
What is the background? Why'd you name it that? What's the background of that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I heard the beat and I was
just like, you been to California Valley?
I ain't never been there.
She said, but she gonna go though.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when y'all start booking me.
That's dope. That's dope. So, with the hip hop thing, who inspires you? Like, you know, I know you said Lil Yachty, you know, but like, were you always musically inclined? Were you singing? Were you know, like, who inspired you as a kid? Not now, as a kid though.
As a kid,
yeah.
To be honest, somebody that I honestly looked up to as a kid is Trina. That's crazy, but
from Florida.
She down south.
She's a legend.
I got a story for real. Like I grew up on Trina.
No doubt.
I grew up. My mom would sit there by the stereo. You know, when I was a little baby, because we had stereos, so we had MP3 and stuff like CD players. This is what we had. She would sit there by the stereo and she would have the music slowed down, writing the lyrics out.
Oh, she had slowed down.
Every one of Trina's songs, every one of
like
every one of Trick Daddy's songs. I swear,
my mother. Punishment.
Exactly.
Punishment. I had to write Biggie lyrics.
Yeah, that's not no punishment.
So I would cheat and write. I had to listen and write them. I would get the cover of the CD and write them.
See, no, it was before we had.
But it was a punishment for y'all.
Lyrics.
She was like, "We gonna get these lyrics."
Yeah, my mom used to do it all the time.
That's good though.
So I grew up on
that in you. That's good.
Yeah, I grew up on Trina. I grew up on Trick Daddy. Pretty much everybody from down south. Yes.
Shout out South Florida. Shout out Florida. Florida's popping right now.
What would you say?
If you're not from Florida, you're not doing nothing for real.
What would you say your particular style is? Like, what would you fit yourself? If you were to put together like a show, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna let you pick 3 artists to put on the show that fit your style," who would you put on that show with you? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question.
I don't know. You mean like anybody in this world, or somebody from like Orlando?
No, anybody. Cause I'd be like, first person I'm calling is Erica. I don't care how Erica come through. You know what I'm saying? Like, who would you? Cause that's my style. Who would you put from your rap style, your flow, where you see yourself going? Who would you put on your showcase?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know, cause I mean everybody is different. Everybody has their own thing going. I mean, I'm my own person. Nobody really has my style. I don't really have nobody else's style.
That's a good answer.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I don't know.
Sometimes you wouldn't need nobody because you just said that you got your own brand, so you're bringing out different people.
Yeah, everybody's
so they're not gonna want to see Trina. They're not gonna want to see Yachty.
Yeah,
they're gonna want to see that.
Yeah, it would be crazy. You know, I say I want to bring Lil Yachty. I want to bring Lil Uzi because they're not my style, or even Trina. Like, yeah, we both female artists, but we,
that's
two different calibers.
That's dope. So, you get signed tomorrow. They give you $10 million. What are you gonna do for a popka?
You know what I'm gonna do for a popka? I don't know.
You don't know?
You gotta tell them to give you more than $2 million.
I said 10. I said 10.
Oh, you trying to be like a?
You get 60% distribution. You get the works. What you gonna do for a popka?
First thing I'm gonna do is move my grandma.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna move my grandma to a big old house.
That's the first thing. That's good.
I mean, and just I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, give back, of course. Have little parties down on 6th Street.
There you go.
Down at the park or something like that.
You gonna throw the Dreci Fest?
Hopefully everybody come out and support the kid.
There we go.
Something like that.
Oh, that's me. My bad. So, we're gonna edit that. I'm professional. Anybody you want to shout out though, other than Desiree?
Shout out 104.5. Y'all been rocking with me since the beginning. H Dot, especially H Dot, he promoting me like crazy. Everything he do, H Dot, he lit. Shout out Mon Dukes.
Okay.
She been supporting me too, even with my crazy ass streams.
Crazy dreams are ever crazy.
Where do we find your music?
Well, right now, I'm gonna be honest, you can find me on SoundCloud.
That's dope.
It's on Dreci. It's SAUN.
Okay.
DRECIA. I know it's long, y'all, but I made this when I was like 10, 12 maybe. It ain't started yet.
So where do that come from? Sandricia.
That's my name.
Okay.
That's my real name.
So then that's not crazy. You should where did your name come from? Sandricia. Matter of fact, it's a poem out right now with a lady about. See, my name is Kimonti.
Right.
So I have a different name, and I use my name as my artist.
Is that Swahili?
Kimonti Sherez. It's actually Kenyan. I found out.
Is that's Kenyan language?
Yeah,
Swahili?
a Kenyan revolutionary.
Their language is Swahili, isn't it?
Not necessarily. It's so many dialects in Africa.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Swahili is the biggest known dialect that's in Nigeria, in the west coast. But when you get into like
they celebrate
South
Kwanzaa in Kenya, their language is Swahili.
It's different. Yeah. You could be saying, you can go to one village to the next. You could be talking Swahili here, go to the next village, and you don't know what the fuck they saying.
Happy Kwanzaa.
So, but no, like, because what is Sandricia? You know what I'm saying?
Sandricia.
So you probably should check that out. Break down your name. You'll be surprised what you learn. You'll be like, wow.
What you mean? Oh, so like the song and then the Dreci mean like God and fire. You mean like that?
I mean,
I'm breaking it down. Yeah, break it down like that.
Words and dialects. So like with mine in like Spanish, Monti is mountains or mini mountains.
So your name's Spanish
like
for real?
That. No, when you look at language come from every thing, and it's derived a different. Like one of my homegirls, she's from the Philippines, but some of her language is Spanish. I'm
right.
like, how do you get Spanish in there? But then she's speaking Assyrian on some parts, so it's like a mixture of dialects all put together.
Right.
So, you know, your name could be more powerful than you think. You like, no wonder I'm like this.
Right.
Because I found out my name, and that's what it mean. No wonder, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, wear that.
So on SoundCloud is where we find the music at.
Majority I post everything on my Instagram.
On your IG,
okay.
What's your IG?
It's _DRECI.
_DRECI.
That's simple enough.
C.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't say it wrong.
Don't say
before
it
the
wrong.
culture coming for you.
What should we expect from you what should we be seeing from 2018? What you got, like, surprises with?
I'm trying to drop my mixtape on my birthday.
When your birthday?
Around it, February 8th.
Oh man.
I'm working on
You better get on
Yes.
it. I ain't gonna lie. You better get on it now. It better be already mixed.
I'm
and
getting
then you work
it.
on mastering it. This end of January, so that because when you said that date, it'd be so hard to drop it that date.
I know. I ain't giving out the date for sure. I want to.
Okay.
But you know, around that time.
Okay, that's dope, man.
Exactly.
So this is the Dreci interview, y'all, for the culture, man. Go check us out on the website.
Appreciate y'all.
Definitely. Before we get out, you know, shout out again for them, just to make it clear, like, where can we see an actual, like, a music video? I want to go pull up a music video first.
A music video? I'm working on it. I got one in the works now.
Do you have anything visual that we can pull up right now outside of SoundCloud?
I do. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
It's my name, my whole name, Saundrecia, SAUNDRECIA. That was a feature that I did.
Okay.
So I mean, that's really, and then the other one should be out hopefully next week, this week.
So we got 2 videos, one coming out soon. We already got one out. So y'all, I'm gonna say that again, SAUNDRECIA. Go check it out.
Yes.
I'm checking it out. And Orlando gonna check this out.
We lit.
Yes, we lit. For the coaches.
Gang, gang.